Mother's Day is just around the corner, and if you're still searching for the perfect gift, consider telling her you appreciate how she does the impossible every day. Working moms juggle a lot sometimes. There aren't enough hours in the day to do everything. So how do you do it all? Well, local author, coach, and mompreneur Carol Deringer joins us now in studio. Good morning, Kara.
Good morning.
So what is a mompreneur?
A mompreneur is a woman who has a family and who's also in business.
And so when was this coined? Is this recent or what? I mean, I think there's been mompreneurs around forever. My mom was, I guess.
Yeah, my mom was too. I grew up in a small business family in Camrose. And so there's been mompreneurs around forever. And I think it's becoming more and more commonplace. And also lots of couples who are entrepreneuring together, which is really cool.
Now, being an entrepreneur, I mean, it can be exhausting, right? Because you're on 24/7. You're your own boss, but at the same time, you have so much. You've got to generate all that. So juggling that and being a mom, being a parent, can be very challenging. And I know you talk about it and speak to people about it all the time. What are some of the things you tell people?
Well, I think it's about creating a holistic life. And so in my family, for instance, if I'm going to a book signing, there's lots of times where my partner will be arriving 15 minutes after me with boxes of books. My kids know that the sooner that they go to bed and they settle in, that the more work I get done that night.
So when did you decide to pursue this?
So a couple of years ago, I was going through a tough time in my life, and I wanted to stay home with my kids for a couple of years. So I took a leave of absence from my regular work position and decided that it was the opportune time opportune or inopportune. At that time, as a single mom, I thought, you know what, I'm going to dive into entrepreneurship, and it's sink or swim. So there was significant motivation to put food on the table for my kids.
So what kind of work did you do to start out?
Yeah, so I was doing contract work at the time, and then I also started writing my first book at that time as well. So I was making sure that I had contracts to buy the groceries, and then I was also starting the writing process.
So what are some of the challenges for mompreneurs out there who are starting out, and what kind of things are they going to face?
I think there's tons of challenges for both men and women, and I really advocate for women to learn and grow and to get really good at business. So a lot of people talk about balancing family and work. Right? The classic question,
right.
How do I balance family with work? And so what I talk about is that it's about, this question isn't that simple, that it's about, I call it the 7 F's. So it's family, fun, finances, fitness, faith, philanthropy, and effing. So it's all about nurturing all of the areas of life. And so it's really about nurturing, and it's also about visioning. So making sure that you're not only feeding each of the areas of life, but you're visioning and you're
What do you mean by visioning? It sounds kind of like an artsy-fartsy phrase.
It does. Yeah, well, not only that you're working on strengthening each of those areas of life, but you also have a plan for going forward. You know what you want in each of those areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So as you've gone on this journey that you've been on, have you had setbacks that have kind of sometimes made you think twice that, geez, I'd just rather have a job somewhere?
Well, you know what? I've actually worked part-time for part of the process as well as a transitioning tool. So and definitely there have been setbacks. There's lots of days where I wake up and I think about the to-do list ahead, and it can be overwhelming. But I think the key is to ask for help and to create really, really strong support networks. Yeah.
So we got Mother's Day coming up.
Yeah.
So anything that we can do to help mompreneurs?
Ask what she wants, because I think that our needs are so unique and so complex. So ask what she wants most. It might be house cleaning, or it might be, a table at a pop-up shop, or an ad in a local newspaper. Who knows what she wants?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to go. So when you talk about all the things that you do, and you go out and you talk about things, what kind of feedback do you get from the women you talk to? Because I know you do a lot of speaking.
I do. There's lots of women who ask me, how do you do it? How do you juggle all the balls? Which is why I wrote the book, because it was easier to write a book than to go out for coffee with all the women that were asking me. Excuse me. But at the end of the day, I just say, just one day at a time, and keep learning and growing. And that sounds cliche as well. But it's so true.
What is your particular business? Like, what did you start and how did you choose that?
Well, my background is in conflict and communication, so I'm a mediator by trade, and I just found that I got very overwhelmed by being in the middle of conflict.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so I set out to do writing and to speak and really support people in creating more happiness in their life, which in turn prevents conflict in the long run. So I'm coming at it from a different angle.
Right. Instead of getting in the middle of it, you're trying to prevent it, get people started and going from that direction. Yeah. Well, it's fascinating stuff, and this was actually a good day to come in on a day when people are feeling a little iffy about the Oilers and that kind of thing. So, any advice on how to get over a traumatic event like the Oilers lost last night?
I love the Journey song. That's one of my favorites. So I would just blast that.
Blast your favorite song and feeling good. Now, if you want a pastry, feel free. We also have some gin and vodka if that's the way it has to go for you.
Well, and I brought you in homemade banana muffins, so those might have to go upstairs.
You did?
I did.
No, Kara, they don't have to go upstairs.
Yeah, we don't have to share those.
Share everything.
Okay.
Since they're homemade. Kara, thanks for coming in this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Kara Deringer is an author, trainer, and coach. You can find her online at karaderinger.com.